Hello. So on Thursday night, Friday morning, 12:30, two hoodied and masked men drove a vehicle right up to my gate and set it on fire. They were fully aware of the CCTV that was in place. They took great pains to hide themselves. The car exploded and was rapidly and efficiently dealt with by Hampshire Fire and Rescue, and the police were in attendance. And as ever, they did a fantastic job, but not before it had caused extensive damage to my property. This leaves me with some questions. Firstly, who were these two men? Were they members of the RSPB, the Wildlife Trust, Butterfly Conservation, Bat Conservation Trust? Were they members of the Countryside Alliance, the British Association for Shooting and Conservation? Members of the Hunt, perhaps? Or were they some of my internet trolls who fill my timeline with hate? Defamatory comments, libelous comments, but lots of hate calculated to damage myself and my interest. I don't know. I wonder about the internet trolls because they get away with it. Despite working effectively with the police, the law as it stands means that I am unable to take any action against this form of harassment. But it is hate crime. There is no ambiguity about that. It's a little unfair that when black footballers receive unwarranted and appalling hate crime, the issue can be dealt with. And that's great, of course, and I would support that fully. But I am surprised that when environmentalists like myself receive similarly hateful torrents of relentless abuse, nothing can be done about it. Because ultimately, of course, it does come at a cost. Perhaps the cost was having my gate burned down, causing thousands of pounds worth of damage. And of course, it's not the first action that we've seen here. Dead animals are a frequent occurrence. You'll remember in 2019 that dead birds were tied to the gate, dead foxes and badgers, and it's continued. Indeed, only the other day I found a dead badger thrown in front of the house. And it's got to the point that I didn't even bother to tell my partner Charlotte and stepdaughter Megan about it because it's become normal. But as someone has pointed out to me, this is far from normal. It isn't normal to come home and find dead animals thrown in front of your property. But that's what's been happening. But now it's escalated because they've taken to damaging that property. And I wonder where it's going. I mean, what happens next? Do they burn the house down? Do they beat up my stepdaughter? Do they cut the brake lines on my partner's car? Or do they come for me directly? I mean, are they going to kill me at some point? I think it's a fair question. Only this time, all I can say is, whoever you are, you burn down the wrong gates. Because if you think that by burning down those gates that I'm suddenly going to become a supporter of unsustainable or illegal shooting, the unwarranted savagery wrought upon foxes in our countryside when they're torn to pieces by dogs, then you're wrong. I will, of course, just carry on because I have no choice. I cannot and will not let your intimidation sway me from my course. And that's why I don't really understand why you would do it. So how can we respond to this vicious, cowardly act of vandalism, of arson? Well, what I'd like you to do is, if you are a member of the National Trust, there is currently an opportunity to vote to ban trail hunting on their properties. You'll find the details in the link attached to this post. you have to vote for the motion. Let's just be clear about that. The motion is to ban it, so you have to vote for it. I'd also like you to write to the national park authorities and ask them to not allow trowel hunting on their property any longer. If you can, you could write to the Forestry Commission and ask them to outlaw this. In fact, any other significant landowner that continues to allow fox hunting, I think at this point in time, deserves a polite letter requesting that this behaviour is no longer allowed to continue. If you could do that for me, I'd be really grateful. In the meantime, I'm going to buy some new gates and carry on.